everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Volusia County, your local podcast following local businesses and local residents on what they love about being a part of Volusia County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest Kelly with us today. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the call today. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good morning, Macy. It's a privilege to be here. Thanks so much for having me today.
Of course. Well, Kelly and I connected. It's actually really funny. She came and she visited my BNI chapter here in Palm Coast. And then later that night we saw her again and then I saw her again the next week. So I'm just really glad she keeps popping up. She's a great person to know. And I'm really excited for her to kind of dive into her story and kind of share with you guys what she does and how she helps people. So Kelly, why don't you kick it off and tell us a little bit about your journey coming here to Volusia and being here in Volusia?
Absolutely. Yes, I had been visiting Volusia County since 2002. At the time, my boyfriend, now my husband, had been visiting the county, Port Orange in particular, because his grandparents moved to Port Orange permanently in 2001. So when we got together, we started to come down and visit and really fell in love with the people, the culture, being close to the beach. And my in-laws moved in 2010. They live in Volusia County. And then my parents moved in 2012, and they also live in Volusia County. So it seemed natural that someday we were going to end up down here. And we moved almost 8 years ago. We moved Thanksgiving week of 2016. So we just love the outdoors. We grew up in Rhode Island, so neither one of us were fans of the snow. We love to golf and be outside. So we knew we were destined to be here and be close to immediate family.
That's awesome. Rhode Island is a really beautiful place for those few months in the summer. I haven't like been in a while, but all of the Northeast is so beautiful. So if you guys love the outdoors, then it's a natural progression to come down here. So you can spend all of the months down here, outside and enjoying that. So that's really, really great. Do you want to share? And this is a great story, so I'm really glad that I'm we have a few minutes for this. You want to share a little bit about your journey joining AppStar, coming into AppStar, and what even AppStar is, if maybe people don't know what that is as well.
Absolutely, yes. So a month before I moved to Florida, I was laid off from my job or let go because I was in a car accident and was out of work for a few weeks. So the response was letting me go, which was a blessing in disguise. I'm a believer in faith and divine intervention. I was looking for a job. I had applied for over 50, which seems to be less than college graduates are looking for today. But 8 years ago, 50 jobs was a lot. And whenever I would apply for jobs, I would click the box to filter out commission only because I always had that comfort of a salary plus commission. So when I was moving, I was starting with an income of zero because I had no job to transfer. That particular day, I didn't check the box to filter out the commission only and received a call from AppStar. They told me about the job and offered it, and I thought that was great. And then I realized there was no salary. I never worked 100% commission before. I was a little nervous, very nervous actually. And I said, well, I'll just try this until I find something better. Going on 8 years, I suppose I haven't found something better. So AppStar is a company that's based out of San Diego. We help businesses with accepting credit and debit card processing or cards as payment. And I believe that if you don't make it easy for your customers to pay for your products and services, they might find someone else. So it's very important to make sure you have options for your customers to pay you for your goods and services. So I'm going on 8 years with AppStar. We're based out of San Diego, but I'm local to the area. I live in Volusia County and I cover several counties in Florida. And I focus on counties that are within an hour to an hour and a half of where I live so we can have that local representation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really loved the story. Obviously, you and I met last week, just over Zoom, and you were sharing, the longer version of that story. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. And I think, I'm a huge believer in God's timing and everything that He shows us, He does for a reason, even if we don't know what's going on. And so I think it's so funny that one day you didn't have that commission filtered, especially coming from such a bad experience of being let go with a car accident and how it was handled and stuff. And that's just kind of the sad reality of a lot of companies sometimes just don't care as much about their employees' well-beings over just basic things, like you were in a car accident and you needed some time and they're like, no. And it's like, okay, all right. Yeah.
It was a blessing in disguise. I'm much
Yeah,
happier now. I have more freedom. My income is much better. And a year ago, my husband left his full time job. He spent over
right.
20 years in the mental health industry and was able to join me in the business. So now we have a business partnership, which is just wonderful.
That's
And it's really
amazing.
a blessing.
Yeah, you guys are able to work together. I mean, I work with my family, so I know how it is. It's I know a lot of people have a very, they hear that I work with my family and they're like, can you survive the day and how does that work, but I think especially you guys have been together a really long time and you guys have really found your own language, which I think is the huge benefit of working with someone you're so close to. Is I know there are sometimes my dad will say a word and no one else knows what it means except me, and I'm like, oh, I know what he's saying. It's like this, and they're like,
That's great.
oh, okay. um yeah. So you talked a little bit about what AppStar is. What are some of the things that you do to help some of the local communities when it comes to, their merchant services and using AppStar?
Yes. So one of the things I do is I provide a free consultation. I take a look at what the business is doing, and we do help new businesses, businesses that are adding additional locations or moving. We can help with those kinds of things. But when it comes to an existing business, we do a consultation. We go through a questionnaire of about 25 different questions. We find ways to help them other than saving money, and that's a big part of it. But when you just approach a business and you say, I can lower your rates, you're not standing out from your competition. And that's difficult to do because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of other great local business people in my industry that are wonderful at what they do. And there's plenty of business to go around. But a lot of our competitors don't have the experience. And I say with pride, I've been with the same company for 8 years because that's uncommon in the industry. The majority, they work for 3 or 4 months and they either change companies or they leave the industry. So, for those that have been in the industry for a long time, there's a lot more credibility. We notice things that someone that's just new into the business might not see because they don't have the experience, and it's not a bad thing. It's just we all have to start somewhere. So, I'm much better at my job than I was 8 years ago. So not only do I do a consultation and find other ways to help them, I clean up a lot of messes because when you change companies, you have to close out your processing account. And if you don't close it out, then you'll continue to get billed. And one story that I share, a local business that I helped, I was referred to a mechanic by another client that's a mechanic. And he had switched companies 3 times over as many years and was paying three fees and paying for equipment that he didn't know about. So we were able to help him get rid of all those fees. In addition to saving him money on what he was processing, we were saving him over $500 a month just in fees he was paying to other companies. And I took the time to look and help clean up that mess, close out the other processors because there was a process to do that. So I really take the time and look at the whole picture and try to help them because most people don't look at what their fees are unless the number drastically changes
Right.
and don't pay attention because they're so busy working in their business. Sometimes things get overlooked, like looking at the bank statements. And so on this particular business, I noticed 4 different line items on the bank statement, and these were all the processors that he had had before, and the accounts never got closed. So we assisted him with that and were able to save him quite a bit of money. And as a result of that, he's referred me to at least 10 other clients.
That's
So it makes a big
amazing.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think an important note in that story that you'd shared with me, you shared the longer version with me last week, was that not only did you look at the statements and then you saw like, hey, I'm not really sure, is you knew what some of the acronyms were, and that really gave you that indicator. And the only that thing that's reading those acronyms can only come from experience, right? Like if you
Right.
showed me some like car mechanics, like bank statements and all of the things that he's been paying for, I'm like, I mean, it looks good. Nothing looks like it's 1,000, 2,000, $3,000. I'm sure it's fine. But you obviously been there. You've read through these things, so you know exactly what to look for, which I think is a huge, huge point that people should realize is like, oh, we can all look through our bank statements, but if we don't really know what to look for sometimes, or if we just, like it's so easy, people subscribe to like Netflix and HBO and
Mhm.
Hulu and Disney and all of these things, and then they forget like, what do I even have at this point? Like I know I had to recently cancel a few because I was like, I don't use it enough. It's fine.
Mhm.
So now I only have one. Because otherwise they were just taking money, and I was like, wait a minute, I haven't used your service in like a month or two. Why am I gonna pay for it?
It's
Um,
so true and so easy to overlook, and I'm very passionate about it because, a personal story, a quick one. I married my husband twice, so we were split up for several years, and in that time, I was ran into some real financial problems. I made very little money. Um, I had my wages garnished because I didn't pay my school loans. I had a car payment with a 14% interest that I had no business in buying and couldn't afford. So I was calling the cell phone company every Friday and begging them, can I pay you $20? Please don't turn my phone off. So I don't share that story to be dramatic. I share it because I understand what it's like to be in such a tight financial position that I can't even afford to pay $20 on my cell phone bill for the week. So I'm
mhm,
very passionate when I'm looking at those numbers because I don't want the same thing to happen to someone else. And when I see that, it really lights a fire in me. And I want to help them get out of that mess because I know what it's like to be so stressed about money. Like, where am I going to get money to put gas in my car this week? It's a really stressful feeling. So when I
mhm.
see that, I really am passionate to help people get out of those messes.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing because it's not an easy thing to go through, and it's not an easy thing to talk about. So I appreciate you being open, and I think that shows in my opinion, whenever someone is as open as you just were, it just kind of shows to me growth, and it shows like we are truly past it, right? Like I know there's so many things where I'm like, yeah, I'm past things, but if you ask me to talk about it, I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like,
Right.
all right,
Yes.
that's a signal for me that I need to work on that a little bit more, which is totally fine. It's just how it is. So that's awesome. I know a lot of people can resonate with that, and especially in even like the economy we are in right now. Like, I was just in New York with my friends. You may remember, and we're all on like the same like budget. We're all like, all right, can we split this? Like, how does it make the most sense for us to get places to eat, and all those things? So yeah, well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on and sharing so many amazing parts of your story. It's been really great connecting with you, learning your story, learning your journey. It's a really special one, so I appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you for the opportunity, Macy.
Of course, and to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well, and I will see you next time. Bye.